Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Angalia Bianca. Hello,
Hey,
how are you?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I really appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time for me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So you're an award-winning author, and you're an anti-violence activist. You're an international speaker. You have all kinds of hats that you wear, and you do all kinds of things, and it's commendable the things that you do in the community. So do you want to introduce? Well, first off, let me play this little clip that I made of some of the accolades and things that you've done. It's a really short thing, and then we'll get into everything.
That's great. I'm excited to see it. That was great.
So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
And that one picture where I'm like with my hand here, and I think I'm wearing beige or like a tan. Yeah. That was actually the ambassador of Burundi, Africa, who came to Chicago to appoint me. He works with I Change Nations, a part of the United Nations, and was appointing me a Goodwill Ambassador for my work in humanities. And also he gave me a couple other awards like World something leader. I don't know, like so many. But anyway, it's not, I just want to say I'm really honored by awards. And I was also granted an honorary doctorate by a university in Virginia. And it's a great honor, right? But I don't do the work that I do to be honored though. And sometimes I get like weird, like, no, I didn't do that for the award. I don't want it. Right. Yeah. But, it's a great honor. And like, as you can see right here, that's my appointment as the United Nations Goodwill Ambassador. So I am proud of that, but it's a long, hard road to get where I'm at today though.
Yeah. I mean, I've had my own journey with recovery and all that. And the road that you traveled, it's very inspiring to see your story.
Thank you.
And like it's an inspiration to see the things you do, and it makes me want to really get out and do things and experience life and keep getting to the next level, and nothing can stop me.
Yeah, you have to be
at your
relentless.
Story. Yeah.
As relentless as I know for me, and probably you too, as relentless as we were in that life, and as like relentless, right, to get what we want, whether it was drugs, crime, surviving prison. We have to be equally relentless, but in a positive way. So I always say, because I was quite the hustler back in the day, I'm not proud of the things I've done, but I am no longer that person. So I have no qualms about talking about my past because they can only educate others, right? But I will say that I have successfully learned how to transfer my negative hustling skills into positive negotiation skills for the greater good of the community.
Yeah. And then one thing that I learned is when situations happen in my life, I don't have to run to alcohol and drugs. There's other things that I can do.
Right?
yeah, to deal
Yeah.
with situations, and you can get through it without running to things like that.
Right.
You don't
Well,
have to deal with it in a
when we're
negative
in
manner.
recovery, we still have, like regular people have problems. There's still problems,
Yeah.
things come up, but and as time goes by, we learn to deal with them better because we're off drugs and our brain functions start to level out correctly because we screwed them all up with all the drugs and alcohol and now like to be just make a good decision. I mean, like I am so law abiding that I laugh at myself. I kid you not. It's like hilarious, right? When I park my car, I have to laugh at myself because I will get out at, like, say it's a tight spot. When I get out of my car to park it, I get out and I go look at the back where the yellow line is, and then like say I'm a half an inch over the yellow line. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Wait, will I get a ticket? Oh, well, this is breaking the law, and it's like crazy. And then I'll like think about it, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. So, and then I move my car, and literally, come on, an inch over the yellow line, nobody's going to do anything, especially in Chicago. But anyway, but I live by the rule: if I don't break a small rule, I won't break a big rule, and so there's no exceptions for me.
There's really no reason to cut corners if you're not
No, I
living
don't cut
the
corners.
clean
No.
life,
I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk, right? And I'm grateful for that, and I'm not trying to brag about that, but in me helping others has, and in turn helps me, right?
Yeah.
And I really enjoy, and like I come from the streets, and uh, I'm still in the streets. I just have a different role, right? So it's a great life. I don't have I'm not like a rich person, but in my mind, I am the richest person in the world because success is not measured by the amount of money you make, but by the quality of life you live. And I live a good quality of life.
That's right. And so I want to talk a little bit about your past, and so
Okay.
people can get a little bit of a picture about the life that you were in, and the
Crazy.
things that you had to get out of to get to where
Mhm.
you are. So so how did it all start for you with the
Down that path.
negative, yeah, the
Yeah.
negative.
So first, let me say my memoir, if you could see it in deep, how
And
I survived.
the link for that is in the description of this video. You can go check it
Okay.
out.
Well, okay. So, how I survived gangs, heroin, and prison to become a Chicago violence interrupter. And wait, right here. It in 2019, it won Book of the Year for Best Traditional Nonfiction by Chicago Writers Association. So, I'm very proud of that. Kevin Gates, the famous rapper, and his wife Drika Gates wrote the foreword. And I have to give a shout out to my brilliant co-author, Linda Beckstrom. I could not have did this without her. And, I'm just like, I am, I knew this was going to happen. Right. So let me tell you a little about, and you can always buy the book and it's like honestly, I'm not trying to glorify anything, but I tell the truth. So in the book, there's a three short chapters of what I currently do. So it starts with that, maybe 10 pages, then in the middle, another, and then at the end, another. So it kind of brings the reader back to, you already know I made it out and I'm doing these things to help, deter people from my lifestyle that I chose before. And, but anyway, I'm not glorifying anything, but I literally paint a picture where like the readers always, people like that don't even know are like, oh my God, it's a page turn. I couldn't put it down. And because I take you by the hand and walk you through that whole life. And then the inspirational climb out of hell my fingers really weren't bleeding, but I mean, like as a metaphor, right?
It
Like
should have been, right?
a
Like,
climb out of hell where I was so determined to change my life that like I'm digging out of my own hell that I made, right? And until my fingers were bleeding, right? But I wouldn't give up. I just wouldn't give up, So my previous life that I no longer live. Okay, so I was involved in drugs at an early age. I started getting high on morphine pills at 9. I was raised by me and my sister by my dad's mother, my grandmother, our grandmother, and my father he well provided for us, but he wasn't around a lot because he worked and my family owns a famous, legendary hot dog stand where people like literally lines around even in the cold weather. And I'm like, oh my God, for a hot dog, but hey, they're real famous. But anyway, so he really wasn't fatherly, like, hey, let's go to the park, but he did provide for us well. And I was always the favorite as a child, and I was extremely spoiled. So I think that, like, growing up in a very Sicilian family that immigrated from Sicily, they lived through the Depression and everything. My grandmother, oh my God, I wish she was still around. You would have loved her, right? And she was quite the character. And I always, at 5, 6, 7, watching her, right? And how she would negotiate and barter with the egg lady, and she'd always get over on everybody, kind of like, and not in a bad way, but like, I'm not, oh, it's too much, stuff like that. So I think by an early age, and then other relatives, would be, oh, look, oh, those poor little girls, their mother left, or whatever. And I kind of think I took advantage of that. I had that kind of mindset, and I'd be cute. I was a cute little girl, and I knew that, like, if we'd be at a family function, every uncle would give me a $20 bill. Well, that's a lot of money in 1964, 1965 for a little kid, and I'm tucking them away right in my bra. I learned that from my Sicilian grandmother. Everything went in her bra, So anyway, but I started getting high. I was really an out of control child. My family tried everything. They really did, and bailing me out of jail from juvenile, and then into adulthood. I don't blame my family for any of the road that I took, right? I'm not like one of those, I'm not a victim. I hate victims, right? So, in spite that I started getting high at 9 years old, a 9-year-old is not capable of a responsible choice. So from getting high from 9 and then until 51, likely the brain functions are not developing correctly, right? Well, thankfully, God has been good to me, and my brain is okay. And, but anyway, back to the story, at a young age, getting high, and then into my teens, harder drugs, the Miss Rock chick, I went on tour with The Who. I had an affair with Keith Moon, until for some states. And then he found the next, like, starry-eyed young groupie. And then all of a sudden I'm on the tour bus, with the roadies. And I'm like, wait, what happened? But it was an experience, and one that, I totally, will never forget. And, but anyway, so aside of that, this continued on, and me with the clubs and getting high. And I did have one child when I was 19, a boy, Sean. And then I had another, he really witnessed the worst of my downfall, going into hell, which no child should ever have.
When you were having kids, when you first had a child, did it slow you down at all?
No.
In that life at all, didn't?
No. So the man who I got pregnant by, this was in Arizona, and so he was not a drug addict. He smoked a little weed and drank. But anyway, so I knew that if I did drugs or heroin while I was pregnant, that was not going to work out well. So we ended up getting married when I was 7 months pregnant. It was like, what a scene, at the court, like with this big belly, getting whatever by the judge. Anyway, we did get married, and then he was killed a couple of years later. I had already left him and came back to Chicago because he lived like he was in a very, very small biker organization club, or and anyway. So, and they lived on this property, and I was like the spoiled Chicago girl, city girl. And it was getting like, I was like, it was fun at first. And then it was like, wait, they want me to go to the well and fill things with water and put them on a truck and bring back for running. I'm like, this is like labor. I don't do labor. Oh my God. So anyway, so I left him, and then he died while I left, and he was in Tucson, Arizona, and my son lived with me, and he died. My son was two years old. So so the clubbing continued, and the punk rock scene, and I was just wild and constantly going out. And my grandmother was always watching Sean, right? But Sean did live with me, and we were very close. And I know that as I started going downhill more and more, I know that it hurt that child so much, for him to see that. because we were really close, you know, and I like to say I could have been a good mother had it not been for the drugs at the young age and all that stuff, right? So then I had a second child, Ashley, I think I got pregnant when I was 29. That's another whole story. Read the book. But I was in jail.
By this time, you've been in and out of jail and all that. Like,
well, county, not. I think once in prison. Short. It was a long bit, but I kept appealing it, and it's in the book. But anyway, I appealed it on my own, pro se, right, from my cell, writing it on, like, you know, like the little request slips that you get in jail to say, I want to go to the library, right? So I'm writing, you know, to the honorable court, here comes Angalia Bianca, pro se to blah, blah, whatever. So I was like so crazy doing this. And then I went, while I was taking college classes in the penitentiary, and took paralegal and graduated. And so, I mean, I'm not a paralegal, but you know, I feel like I basically grew up in the court system. But anyway, so when my daughter, I got pregnant with her while I was an inmate from a correctional officer. And so I had this long term and had that long.
So did they find out about?
No.
The jail didn't know anything.
No, well, they would have if I had to do the 8 years. But, yeah. So anyway, so it was like, you know, so not to be too much on this, but it was a situation where it was like, I in my head knew I was going to win this appeal and get a time cut to 2 years, which would have been 9 months, right? So, but I'm kind of getting fatter a little bit, and I'm getting other girls like, give me your clothes, like the uniforms, you know, whatever, so I can kind of hide it. And then me and my cellies would joke, and we'd be like, okay, what's the plan? We're gonna have to sneak milk back from the chow hall, and because you can't bring anything from the chow hall. And then we'll stockpile sheets to make diapers, and we're gonna have to take turns.
In there before, like, had a baby and not told anybody? Have they
No, we were delusional. We were just like, you know, like
we're just gonna have this baby on our own.
No, right, it was like, just like kind of like, what do we do? And kind of like coming up with a plan that was never going to work, obviously, you know? So, and like telling my Sally, you're going to have to be the one to deliver the baby. It was like just all talk, you know, just craziness of girls in jail. Right. So anyway, but as it turned out, I did get out. I did win the appeal, and I got out a few months before she was born. And so I got out and got with the correctional officer who, and I started living at his house, and then had the baby. And so I was with my parole officer. She was really nice. And I so far was like complying, right? And I forgot that, like, I'm on parole, right? So I had to go have a meeting with her, you know, meet her, go in person, right? And I'm in the hospital. I just gave birth, right? So I call her from the hospital phone, and I'm like, hi, Miss Tolbert. This is Bianca, and because everyone calls me Bianca because my first name's hard to pronounce. But so I said, this is Bianca, and I can't make it today. Can we reschedule? And she was like, sure. Why? What's wrong? I'm like, well, I'm in Loyola Hospital. I just gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And she was like, Bianca, hold on. You've only been out of prison, da da da. How did you just give? And I'm like, oh, okay, why did I say that? Right. And I'm like, okay. So I just said, Patricia, I've been doing good. And I won't say anything and you don't say anything, and let me just keep doing good, you know? And so we like just erased what I said. And she was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to give you a chance. So I was lucky, but they could have violated me. You know, obviously I had sex in prison, and that's not allowed, you know, especially with a guard, you know. I wouldn't have gave him up because I'm not a rat.
He probably would have went to prison for that.
Well, right? I would never have given him up. I was in a co-ed prison, so it could have been any number of men, you know. Yeah. So, but anyway.
I've never heard of a co-ed prison either in my life.
It was for about 10 years in Illinois, and then we had a new director, and they got rid of it. I was going to say I never got pregnant in jail, but actually I did, but it was from a CO. But women were getting pregnant from male inmates and not getting out. Girls that had life and had giving birth, and so it was crazy. But they stopped that, you know. But anyway, but I could tell you during that time, it wasn't even like that bad about being in prison, because you know, it was like, God, I knew everybody. I mean, like during the women would walk on one side of the road and the men on the other side. But, you know, it was like being on the west side of Chicago. Hey, Bianca, you know, and I'd be like, hey, you know, I was getting tickets out the ass and shit, you know, but anyway, and I didn't care. I was too reckless. But anyway, so I ended up, so in the beginning, and I just want to say, and then I'll move on to how I changed. But in the beginning, so I ended up having 5 children, and which family raised all of them except for the last 2 that were adopted out. Well, my family adopted all my kids. Actually, my second child, Ashley, I'm the only legal mother of her, and I joke with her about that, you know, because like her father took her, you know, and so I'm selling her birth certificate. But anyway, like my dad adopted one, my sister, and what's going on. But it was like my poor family hadn't seen me, and it's like, how many kids is she going to keep having, you know?
At least you had them to do that, because then, well, if you didn't have
Oh
anybody,
yeah, I'm
can you
so
imagine?
lucky.
Like what
No,
happens to the girl who doesn't have anybody?
Oh, you're absolutely right, and I work with that arena now, you know. And had my family not been there, they would have gone into shelters or foster care. I would have never known where they are today. So I'm very grateful to Jesus and God. I'm not a real religious person, but I am spiritual, and I'm thankful to God every day. I say it millions of times, because I actually know my children and have relationships with them now. But it wasn't an easy path to get to that point, right? So anyway, after 36 years in that life, getting high, doing drugs, I don't think there's any drug that I haven't done, except the only thing I've never done is methamphetamine. I could tell you that. So that's it. You name it. By the time I was 14, I was tripping on LSD. I mean, it was just like party, party, party. It was fun to me. I thought I was having fun. And as time went by, you know, maybe early 20s, I joined, and I don't like to say, so I work to try to change the narrative in the communities and for mainstream society. So I don't really like to say gang, because, and not always the name of what I was. So I'm not going to say it. I decided not to. But I did join a notorious Latino street organization in Humboldt Park. And if anybody knows anything about Humboldt Park and see that I have a teardrop on the left side of my hand and a crown here, so you'll know what that is. So I'm not trying to glorify, and I don't want to give them power by saying their names. So the thing is that when the bullet hit the bone, so I'm reading what someone's just commented.
She said your book is her next read.
Yeah. Well, it's a page turn, but I want, so about the book, it is a page turner, but there's a lot of dark parts in there, but I couldn't tell half a story. I had to tell the whole story, because my book is more about the message and helping others, or somebody. So everybody knows somebody or has a family member or went through something. So mine is more about the message, right? Well, anyway, so as I continued partying and having fun and going, and then I was like Miss Rock Chick, punk rocker, you know, and I really love all music. I listen on my playlist, you'll find Beethoven to Ella Fitzgerald to Buddy Guy to rap, you know, Chance, my nephew Vic Mensa, Bilo from Do or Die. I mean, like, it just goes on. It's like people have said to me, hey, pick a side, no, I love music, all music. And I just like, so I can tell you, I am the Rolling Stones. So anyway, but back to the life that I led, that constantly was a cycle of, prison and jail, Cook County Jail, and drugs, and, like just and even homelessness in the end. In the beginning, I was a drug dealer with my last 2 children's baby daddy. And then even with the organization I was affiliated with, there were times I was walking around with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in my purse, because I'd go pick up the money to bring to the safe house, right? And that might not sound like a lot of money now, but in the late 70s, early 80s, it was a nice little sting, you know what I mean? Like, So, but anyhow, so I don't know if any of your viewers know what it's like to live hour by hour, but I do. And what that hour by hour looks like in that life is hour by hour, never knowing if you're going to get arrested and go to jail, never knowing at what point are you not going to get money and you're going to go into a violent heroin withdrawal. You know, like you got people that are against you. You got to watch. Like we kind of all know who the players are. I
You got
lived
the police, you have the people that are
yeah,
selling the
and
other
so I was
drugs,
real
the rioters.
notorious with my baby daddy. We were like public enemy number one, and you know, so some of the book is there's parts in there that you're going to be like, this is like the hood version of Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, it's like a lot of action going on, but and like I said, I'm not glorifying it, but that's what happened. So I can't really say when we were pickpocketing or robbing somebody. Like in the book, I can't write about that because that was I'm writing. I'm saying the words on the mindset I had back then. So I can't put a little in parentheses, oh, and I feel really bad about this. I have remorse. You know, no, I mean, you'll get the remorse when you finish the book and see where I've gone, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So when my father died, so I did a total of 12 years in prison. And, you know, I mean, I'm a survivor and things, oh my God, that's a whole nother podcast. But
When you were in prison doing the 12 years and when you were about to be released, did you feel like it institutionalized you? Like I'm stuck in this mindset and this is
I
gonna
didn't
be
know.
my
I
life?
never gave any thought. I didn't even think about that. I just knew that like a week before my release date, because I went to prison several different times. I did a total of 12 years.
Yeah.
And I never had a really short stint. You know, I wasn't one of them lucky ones in the state of Illinois who got 61 days, you know. So it was always a few 2-3 years or 7, you know, and I'm so, you know, but prior to my last release, a week before, now I might have been locked up for 3 years, but a week before my release, knowing I'm getting out on Monday, you know, my nose would start running, you know, like in heroin, you know, like you don't have heroin, your nose runs. And so like, I never thought about like institutionalized or whatever. I just couldn't wait to get back to the streets. And I went back to the only thing that I knew. Right. And which was the streets, the projects, crime. And that was like my mindset, and you become immune to that. And in spite of all the, I've never shot or killed anybody in my life, and my teardrop is hollow, with which the organization I belong to, hollow means you're mourning a death, and filled in would mean you avenge a death, right? So mine is mourning because I was with our Inca of that section at the time when he was killed, and then my husband was the first one was killed, and so that's why I had that teardrop. Because I remember my mother one time, I had this when I was I still was kind of holding on, and I'd stop by to see my mom or my grandma. And one time my mother was like, you know, I know what that teardrop means. And I'm like, really, Mom, what does it mean? And she's like, I watched Oprah. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, tell me what Oprah said, you know? And she's like, you killed somebody. And I'm like, well, Mom, no. So here's how it goes. Certain, you know, for lack of a better word, gangs have certain reasons for putting teardrops on their eyes, right? The one I belong to, hollow, means you're avenging. I'm mourning a death, right? No. Oprah didn't say that. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe you need to call Oprah and educate her, you know? So I was whatever, you know? But anyway, so then I was completely alienated from my family. I didn't see them for 16 years. And I used to say they disowned me, but I don't say that anymore, because the more I think about it and the more as years pass by, I realize I just couldn't, I just had to straighten my life out. And they just didn't want me around all high and, you know, like, and I looked terrible. And, you know, I mean, like, the streets tear you up, right? Yeah. So, anyway, so, you know, I wouldn't want my children to see me like that, right? And my family was like, just get your life together, which I wasn't willing to do. And I stayed in that life. So, but anyway, so then in January.
When you got shot, when did you get shot?
So I got shot in 1997 in the Ickes projects on, like, literally a block away from where the St. Valentine's massacre happened years ago. But anyway, these were the Ickes housing projects. And I was not the target, but my baby daddy was. And a bullet ricocheted, a 9mm went through my leg, which caused great. I checked myself out of the hospital because, you know, I'm invincible. I was like, just give me some crutches, I'm fine. And so I lived like that for many years. And then after I changed my life and now I work and have insurance, I went to have surgery, and I had to have 3 inches of my femur bone removed because of the bone degradation from that bullet all those years. And they put a rod in a plate, and it went all the way up my leg and destroyed my whole hip. So I had to have even a full hip replacement. So, but the good news is I'm good. I'm healthy. My doctor's always like shaking his head, and I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, you are like a medical miracle. Like, you've never had a sexually transmitted disease. You don't have HIV. You don't have Hep C. Like, your liver's fine, you're fine, and I'm like, God, I don't know what to say, but anyway,
Frank
so
says the phoenix has risen.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Frank.
True.
Anyway, I stayed in this lifestyle, and then my last time in prison, it's crazy because I did some research, and it was January 10th, 2011, right? So 1/10/11 that night. And I'm like I analyze everything. And I've always been like that. I've always been an analyzer, right? Mm-hmm. So I was really stressing that night. And my father's still alive, though I know he's sick because my Aunt Louise, the only one he refused to not write me or send me photos of my kids. I wouldn't even know what they looked like had that not happened, right? So, but anyway, I knew my father was sick and had a heart attack and all that stuff. So anyway, what happened that night, I'm talking with my cellies, and I'm like, so let's figure this out. When is the next time? Because tomorrow's 1/1/1/1/1. When's the next time that's going to happen? Like, is it 1,000 years or another 100? Or, I'm just like goofball stuff. And everyone's like, Bianca, get away from me. I'm trying to sleep. I don't care when it, if it's my out day tomorrow, let me know about it. Otherwise, I don't care. So I'm with like a little pencil. I'm trying to and I'm horrible at math, but I'm trying to figure this out. Anyway, I go to sleep. I wake up. The social worker calls me into the office, and that afternoon on 1/1/1/1/1, and says to me, Bianca, your Aunt Louise has called and informed me that your father died this afternoon. But so I started crying. And I'm real honest. I don't care, people can like me or not like me, but I am honest, right? And I was crying. I wasn't the closest to my father. I loved my father to death, right? I loved my father, right? But I was way closer to my grandma, right? But when that happened, I started choking up and crying. And I realized that was guilt. Like, what a piece of shit daughter I am. I should have been there with him, right? So she saw me choked up. The officer's there, waiting to take me back to my cell, and takes my hand. The social worker takes my hand and says, Bianca, I want you to take comfort that your father died peacefully with his loved ones around him, and take comfort in that. So I went back to my cell and laying, and it just replaying what she said. And I started thinking about my own mortality and the pictures my aunt was sending me. I'm like, why does this one or why does that one look so old? Like, and then I go to brush my teeth in the bathroom in the prison, and then I'm like, so I talk to myself crazy,
Yeah.
Bitch, you're getting old too,
Yeah, like every day is going by. Your life's ticking by.
Bitch, you're getting old too, the time doesn't freeze until you decide you want to check back in,
Yeah.
Like, your family is getting old. So anyway, so that I always say, in my father's death, he gave me life. And so somehow, so it was some months later, and I knew I was going to be getting out in like 6-7 months, and I started thinking about it. If I don't change my life, I'm going to die in an alley by myself from a bullet or a drug overdose. And who's going to even know who I belong to? They can fingerprint me for my name, but criminals don't carry IDs, right?
Yeah.
And so then anyway, and then as far as like, I'm like I'm visualizing me dead in an alley, shot or overdosed, right? And am I just going to sit in a morgue, and is nobody going to come? I'm like, oh my God, right?
No one
and
come claim you or nothing. Just
nothing, and even if would they know who I belong to, and even if they found who I belong to, in my mind, I was thinking my family might say, she's been dead to us a long time. We're not putting her children through that. Even though today they all say, oh no, we would have came and got you. I don't believe them. I don't care. Anyway, thankfully that's not going to happen. But anyway, so, but So I didn't really know how to pray. I like, I was more the criminal, like, hey, let's make a deal. So I did make a deal with God. And I said, God, if you, I made my little, and I said in my bed, I actually went on my knees with tears in my eyes and said, God, if you'll take the taste of the streets and the heroin from my mouth until my last dying breath, I will help people. And that's that. So then I was getting out, and I thought, I want my life back. I want my children back. I want my family back. Many have died. I don't want any more to die before I see them. Right. So all these are motivating factors. So I thought, you made the promise to God, so at least try. So I ended up paroling from prison into it's like a homeless shelter, but you could parole there, and you actually have a room with two other people, so it's not like one of them places where you get kicked out in the morning, got to come back. It's like a really good program.
Like they work with you.
They're like wraparound services, and it's A Safe Haven Foundation in Chicago, asafehaven.org, for anybody that has family members, because they don't only take people from Chicago, they will take you from anywhere you are, and everything is free. So while I was there, and they're trying to I always like to say they kind of tricked me, where it was like these little jobs, like for 2 seconds, you got to wash this window. And I was reluctant because all these years I had no rules. I did what I wanted. But in the end, like I told you earlier, in the beginning, I'm walking around with tons of cash, living high off the hog, driving big time cars, like sports cars, and flying all over the freaking world, and doing criminal activity in other places, obviously. But anyway, that's in the book too. But anyway, so I was reluctant because I wasn't used to that. And then they would say, hey, Bianca, if you don't want to follow the program, then you'll have to pack your stuff and leave. And for that split second, I think, okay, back to the abandoned building where when the sun goes down, I have to put tissue in my ears because it's so roach infested, and the roaches, I just don't want them to crawl. I know they're going to crawl all over me, but I don't want them crawling in my ears. Like, when I think now, look back to that, like, how was that acceptable to me? How did I, like, the norm, But anyway, so I think about that. I'm like, no, okay. I'll go wash the window, So, Oak Park girl. Yeah. Well, actually, really, I'm a Chicago girl because I lived in Little Italy as a child, and until Little Italy started getting dismantled by the University of Illinois, the Dan Ryan Expressway. So my family was forced by eminent domain to sell their home and the apartment. They tore that whole block down. Apparently they needed a parking lot. But anyway, so a lot of Italian. Back in those days when I was little, that community, Little Italy in Chicago, it's not like New York. We only have one Little Italy, and was comprised of like Sicilian, Italian, Hispanic, and Black, right? And it just was a different time, right? But anyway, so then we did move to Oak Park, which is like right on the west border, like basically Oak Park, but I left at an early late age and came right back to Chicago. So I dropped out of high school. But anyway, back to the ending here. So so if you could imagine like any possible movie of any drug addict, crazy girl, like amplify that by 1,000 times, and that's the life I lived. I'm lucky I'm not dead. I can't tell you how many people I've seen killed in front of me in that life, and even still now trying to save youth because I go into the streets, but I'll talk about that in a second. And so the thing is that while I was at A Safe Haven, doing these things, and they were putting me in the rehabilitation groups and things.
Did you have a thought in your mind of what you wanted to do with your life at that point? Did you have like, I want to do this, or did you?
No, I just, all I knew, no, I had no, the only thing I knew is that I promised God. See, because I was equally addicted to the streets. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, how horrific that whole scene is. I had a lot of fun in them streets, and then towards the end, it gets less and less and less. And then you're by yourself alone and homeless and, living, trying to get $20 so you could get a couple bags of heroin so you don't get sick. I had a fear, like any addict, to fall asleep, because the minute you fall asleep and wake up, you're in withdrawal, So, it was a hard life. And I look back now And I'm like, man, like, I don't, like what an easy life I live. And I'm a workaholic, right? And I wear a million hats, and I'm involved in all types of projects. And, that's an easy life. That's a hard life to live. And really they find, and studies have shown, that criminals are some of the smartest people on the planet, right? And because we have to, like, literally, like I said, hour by hour figure shit out how to survive, right? It's survival. It's a constant survival mode, which is trauma, right? In the end. But anyway, so while I was at Safe Haven, I started just volunteering, right? And within the program, and then I'd get a pass, and they'd say, hey, we're sending you to a community center, and they're going to help you make a resume or whatever. And I'd be on a bus, a city bus, just going to point A to B. And I'd see some young guys, and, because we're going through the hood. So I tell the bus driver, stop the bus. I got to get off right now. Like, all dramatic, they'd be like, well, the next time, like, no, right now. I got to get off right now. And so
they're looking at you like you're crazy. Like, you don't want to get off here. They're like, just let me off.
Okay, lady, get off the bus, And I'd walk up to these young people that, don't really know me, but I have a really good rapport with people in general. I love all people, humanity. I know that behavior is whatever your behavior is, because I work in public health now, and I know behavior is formed, and there's a lot of layers and different, layers of the onion to peel off to get to the root causes. So, but anyway, so somehow I can walk up to strangers and we're fast friends and BFFs, and they're like, okay, wait, where are you on Instagram? And then all of a sudden, so I would say, look, I know you're like, you don't know me. My name is Bianca. I'm not the police. I'm not the feds. I used to be you. I did 12 years in prison, blah, blah. And I feel like maybe they found me kind of entertaining in a way, and I'd say I kind of undercover. So I just wanted to share with you the ugly side up front. That way, when you go to prison, and trust me, if you don't change your life, you will. And
not me, you guys out there.
Okay, but
you guys out
there. But I'm talking about like guys with guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Chicago. So anyway, and then I would say, I just kind of want you to and we'd laugh, and so because you got to say it in a soft way. You can't be preaching. They're not going to listen to the teacher, the social worker, the police, the mom, the grandmother, or nothing, right? But someone like me, once they're like I start talking, I'm speaking their language, and they're like, oh yeah, she's legit, right? So then I would say, this way, when that cell door in the penitentiary slams on you and you're not going anywhere for 15 years, you won't be as devastated as I was. Like, wait a minute, I was having fun. What happened to the last 25 years? Like, what happened, right? So I continue to do this over about a month, here and there, when I'd see young people. And a program manager of an anti-violence organization in Chicago back then, in 2011, was, like, they drive through and they talk to young people and try to intervene. And that's what I do now. But anyway, but this is Breyer. So,
so you had no clue about what
I didn't even like this was Ceasefire, and they're no longer in Chicago, but Ceasefire is like a household name in Chicago, the anti-violence group, with posters that have a little kid that says, stop shooting, I want to grow up. So it's kind of was a household name. So anyway, so the guy seeing me saw this play out like 3 or 4 times and was like confused, right? So one time he saw me out there, him and a couple guys that were in the car, and they get out of the car, and the young guys, they were like, hey, J-Dub, and that was J.W. Hughes. I have to give him a shout out. He has been he no longer does that. Well, they're not here anymore in Chicago, but he still does the work and mentorship and with young, youth and young adults, trying to help them, get on the right track. But anyway, so JW, as we call him, or J-Dub. Anyway, the guys knew him. They were like, hey, J-Dub, what's up? And so then they were like, and then JW comes to me and he says, hi, what is your name? And I go, Bianca. And he goes, oh, I'm JW Hughes. And I go, oh, nice to meet you. And then he goes, sister, can you walk with me? And I go, sure. So we walked a couple, half a block away from the, so we're alone. And he said, you know what? I don't know any other way to say this, so I'm just going to say it. So do you know those guys? And I said, well, yeah, I did it an hour ago, but now I do. And he's like, what are you saying to them? And I said, I'm kind of trying to give them the ugly side up front, and, in a light way with some humor in it. So that way they don't take it like I'm preaching and shut me out. And then he was like, okay, I have to say this and I mean no harm. And I said, no, just say it. And he was like, I have never in my life seen an older white woman in the hood with teenage black kids. Do you know they have guns? So I'm like, well, they either on them or somewhere near. Of course I do. And he goes, do you know they're in a gang? Of course. How do you know that? I go, because I used to be them, So yes, I do know. And that was taken in that photo was when I was working, giving trainings in Durham, North Carolina. And that's actually a housing project. And these little kids, I mean, they were like curious about me. And then these little kids, we all became like BFFs, and they were like doing little tricks for me on their spinners and bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway,
awesome.
so that was in North Carolina. But anyway, but in Chicago, so he said, do you know what ceasefire is? And I go, oh yeah, the people that don't shoot, I want to grow up people. I mean, everybody knows, right? And then he was like, yeah, but I needed a violence interrupter. And wait, the West Side is so dangerous because well, yeah, some parts, not all, the West Side of Chicago. Oh yeah, you could, it doesn't matter. They don't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're on if you come from money or the best of families or best of education. That lifestyle doesn't discriminate against anyone. But anyway, so this man, J.W. Hughes, said, I need a violence interrupter and I'll pay you $15 an hour. Now, this is 2011. I'm just out of prison. I'm on parole. And so they're like, that's kind of a good salary, I mean, so I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, wait, I don't even know what a violence interrupter is. He's like, it's what you're doing right now. And I go, oh, okay. So he told me, come bring a resume and come to the panel interview. That's how they did things back there, like a community.
Yeah, so there's like five different
6 people,
and
and
they have
so
to
they
vote
interview
to see if you're able.
Yeah, and everyone's got to vote then, right?
Yeah.
So I was so excited because this was like a big deal to me. So when I went back to A Safe Haven, and there's other girls there, and I'm like, okay, I've got this interview for this, for Wednesday. I need, like, one girl did my hair, when I got a box dye, and and one girl did my makeup, and I borrowed some suit that somebody got that's Safe Haven because they have like a secondhand closet. So I got a suit on, and I'm like, I'm not just feeling myself, like I'm going on an interview. Somebody lent me like a little leather thing where you open, like as if you work in an office, to take my I printed
like
out
organizer type thing.
Yeah, I printed out 6 of my little resumes, which we know when you come out of prison, it's like you just whatever you did in prison, that's your experience, But anyway, so at one point, one of the men said, oh, and I got my nails done. Okay. So I had my French tips on. And like I said, I was really walked in there like, I was the shit, and I'm getting this job. And so then I would have been better off just bringing my rap sheet, which I could show you. But anyway, it's like a book in itself. But anyway, and to my credit, about 85 of those 126 arrests are misdemeanors, because in Chicago, like other cities, when the police see you constantly, they're like, okay, she looks really rough, and we're just going to give her a loitering or this, that, the other. And I'd be like, really? You're taking, no. And they'd be like, no, you look like you need a couple of days off, of rest, But anyway, so at the interview, one of the men was like, maybe you'd be better off as an executive assistant in a downtown Chicago, corporation. And I looked at him and I'm like, oh my God, like what? No. And so anyway, the outcome of it, I left. The outcome of that panel was everyone was like, she's too old. And at that time I'm 51, right? And now I'm 63, about to be 64. But anyway, so
look great for your age.
Thank you.
And you're still doing your thing, like it's
everyone says I'm like the Energizer Bunny, let me tell you. But anyway, so I hit the ground running and never stopped, and I'll never stop until I die. But anyway, so I found out later that J.W. Hughes had the final say, and everyone voted no. Like, she's too old, she's too white, she's still on parole, she's living in a homeless shelter. Like, one of the questions asked to me was like, what are you going to do? You have corrupt, yes, and predominantly, well, most of them primarily elected. So So the war zone, let me just answer that. It is like a war zone, but Chicago does not even hit, and do the research, because I am a researcher for the University of Illinois, doesn't even make the top 25 lists of most dangerous cities. So because they do it per capita. However, Chicago is very, 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 very high on amount of and continuing to rise on homicides and shootings, right? And this new breed, and we can get into that in a minute, is like, so they have no value of life. I don't think that they're really I don't know, it's really out of control, right? And I do agree with the as far as like to talk about politicians, I'm going to agree that like they're allocating, so there's a lot of money for violence prevention in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And I believe, and I don't believe, I know this because I do the work, right? So they give a lot of money, like in the millions and millions of dollars, to organizations that I never see on the street. Like, I'm in all the hoods, you know, even the ones I don't work in. I'm everywhere. There's nowhere in Chicago that I can't go, or that someone doesn't know who I am, right? So if you're giving these millions of dollars to people, where are these outreach workers? Where are these people that are stopping by, that are supposed to be working, right? So, but there's a lot of great organizations in Chicago. There are several. We need more. But one of them that's really, 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 really doing the work, and people always will say you always see them in their green, jackets, bright green jackets that say it's Acclivis, ALLIVUS, Inc. .org. So anyway, but they're really great, believe me. And I don't lie, I would just throw them under the bus if they weren't. But they're not. They are really good, and they work in 5 level 1 trauma center hospitals and respond to all gunshot victims. Because you may be at a low point, and they have hospital responders trained, and that way they may be able to reach them at a low point and get them resources to help them not go out there and get shot again and return to the hospital, or maybe die, right? But anyway, so J.W. Hughes called me, and he said, look, I told that panel, if I see something in this girl, and I'm going to hire her. And if it goes south or bad, it falls on my lap, but I'm hiring her. So
they didn't want to hire you.
Though. No, not at all. No. And I could tell you, 2 months later, every single person on that panel called me and even was like, Bianca, oh my God, we are so sorry, right? So they ended up putting me in a community, so there's 77 communities in Chicago. So everyone, who's saying, because I get this go out, how is that going? How's that violence thing going for you in Chicago, Bianca? Well, there are 77 communities in Chicago. So no one has funding to saturate all 77 communities. And maybe 77 aren't even in the realm of the problematic, right? But let's say 40 of them are. We don't even have funding where they're constantly, where we've got workers are trying to reach these at-risk youth and at high-risk young adults. High risk is defined in my world as an individual likely to shoot or be shot day to day, right? And I kind of like the hard cases because it gives me a challenge. And I have saved a lot of kids. I've lost a lot. But anyway, so he told me he's going to hire me.
Do you go to schools? Do they go to
I go to schools, I go to prisons, I go around the world. People that are
skipping school and try to find the kids
are
that
are. Are you kidding me? Look, let me just tell you. Some of these kids, they're out really late. And so now I've gone up the ladder. I started as a violence interrupter, outreach supervisor, program manager, data analyst, coordinator of data. I keep, up because I'm like a sponge. I want to learn everything, right? So, okay. So, but when I was on the streets constantly, the first 3 years, a lot of these young kids will be out late, and I'm still out there. And then they get up and go to school. I get up early and I go to there's some high schools that are known for a lot of, rivalry and, problems, right? So I'll go to the school, and I've had young guys say to me, Bianca, do you sleep? You're the last person I see at night and the first in the morning. If a kid, I had the school social worker would call and say, so John Doe didn't come to school today. I go to John Doe's house and tell them, Mom, is he sleeping? Yeah, I can't get him up. I'm like, let me in. And I go in the bedroom, kicking the bed. Get up now. Get up now. You're going with me. We're going to school. So I talk a lot of shit, but in a loving way. And they know I don't mean any harm, so I can get away with it. But anyway.
That reminds me of that movie, was it Lean on Me? Lean on Me, right?
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
But I truly love these young people, and I truly want to help them in any way I can. But in the beginning, when I got the job, they put me in the worst, in their small, they probably were in like 3 communities, right, out of the 77, right? So there was one specific community called the Jungle, and that was like the worst in that area. And I'm the only female employee at this point, right? The only at that site. And so they were like, none of the guys could even get into that, those guys, right? They can walk past and go, hey, what's up? And they'd be like, hey, but they couldn't really get in there, right? So they were like, put Bianca in the Jungle. So, okay, I don't give a fuck, so I'm there, and I'm making, strides and talking and hanging out, and then like the supervisors and managers, like every couple of weeks, they do walkthroughs of the neighborhood. And I wasn't there at the time, but I was on my way to work, and I got a call from the supervisor, and he was like, Bianca, where are you? And I go, oh, I'm on my way. Wait, what's going on? Something happened? And he was like, no, you've been working here 2 weeks. I'm in the Jungle right now. Every single kid, every single young guy is going, either where's Bianca? Where's the white girl in the orange jacket? Where's the ceasefire lady? He was like, you fucking own the Jungle, and I'm like, so. And then I found out that my colleagues, the guys, they were all taking bets on how long I'd last, and I got to say, I outlasted all them. I still worked them when they were long gone. But anyway, so I back to my father. They do exist. There are organizations that do exist, and I'm not going to blast them out on live because I'm not a person like that. I'm professional, but I feel like, and they work in predominantly Black and brown communities, are supposed to be. So some of these they do exist. There really is, like, these organizations, right? But you don't see the saturation of staff really out on the street like you would with other organizations, like I mentioned.
Like what are they doing? Sitting in a corporate office trying to figure out?
Netflix. I don't know. I don't work with them, so I don't know. I'm the real deal, though. Everyone's like, I see Bianca's everywhere, So and the people, I don't, but I mean, it is a lot of corruption. I'm not going to talk about politics because that starts arguments, but I have my view, and if any, I mean, like it is horrible. I don't like what our leaders are doing here. But I do know a whole lot of wonderful, great politicians, like state legislators and senators that I know personally, that I know are doing everything they can to change policy, so to kind of fix this, right? So it's kind of like got to be a group effort. But anyway, so I just got to mention back to my dad dying on 11111. When I got out, I did research, and spiritually, they say any number in sequence, like over and over, is a sign of angels. But if you see the number 1 in sequence, it's a sign of guardian angels. So I feel like in my father's death, he gave me life, right? Because that got me to thinking. So while I was in the program, I lived there 8 months, and like after like 2 or 3 months, like people were kind of like treating me with respect and like looking, and I kind of like, oh wow, I kind of like that feeling, And then it went into like where one of the like a boss there said, Bianca, will you volunteer and come down to the main lobby and answer the phone? You're likable, you talk well, you speak well, and answer the phones. And all you have to do is say, this is, AC Haven, Bianca speaking. And I was like so thrilled to do this. Like that was like a big deal for me, right? I felt so, even though who's calling at 5 a.m, right? Nobody. But so I would sit there and stare at the phone and like, oh my God, please ring. And when it would, I'd be like all happy, like, A Safe Haven Foundation, this is Bianca, how can I help you? And so I felt really important. And the more that I felt that was empowering me and knowing that I could do anything I want. And that's what I now try to instill in young people, whether they've crossed that line to become high risk or they're at risk. And I want them to know they can be anything that they want to be. And I wish that I could be their age again, because I didn't know that, right? Somehow, you know, but I want them to know that you're young now. You can be an astronaut. Like, that's my dream, to go to space, right? So, but anyway, so I continued working hard and out in the street. I'd work way more hours than I was supposed to, no overtime, just on a salary. I didn't care about the money. When I left Safe Haven, I actually had been working quite some time, but their services are free. And the founder and the co-founder and president, Nellie Vasquez Rowland, said to me, I wanted to meet her, you know, because I was just like, thank you for saving my life, right? And then she gave me some advice and said, go open a bank account and, you know, put your money in there, which I did. And then, you know, she told me, like, kind of little, I don't know, she took me under her wing, right? And started taking me on she would do speaking, public speaking. And she would always tell me, speak from the heart to the heart. So that's why, like, there's never a question that anybody's going to ask me that I'm going to be like, oh, wait, let's regroup. Let me figure out what. No, everything's from my heart, because I really do this, right? So I don't have to script or do anything. So, but I've continued doing the work, even though I'm not really an outreach worker and I'm not a violence interrupter, and, you know, I've moved up. But I say I will always be a violence interrupter, and I will always be an outreach worker, because I still, to this day, get phone calls from guys and girls from 8 years ago. And I'm not going to go like, oh, well, I don't do that anymore. Sorry, bye. You know, like, no, like my whole brain, I have a photographic memory. So my whole brain is like a wealth of information, of resources, you know. But and so I just keep moving along day by day. And the more I give back, the more it helps me. But I just want to take a quick opportunity. I want to give a shout out to my friend Liz Coppola. And I hope I pronounced her name right. Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Liz, hey Liz. So I just want to mention that I will be in Las Vegas in June to work with her on her new reality series. And she's currently opening a store in Las Vegas on the Strip, where she will be doing this reality series filming at the store that she's opening. Liz is a well-known in the entertainment industry by actors and producers, and she's a well-known psychic with thousands of followers, right? And anyway, and you know, I feel like sometimes the universe just does something, right, to us, right? And I feel like the universe connected me and Liz Coppola, and now we're like spiritual soul sisters, right? Because she's a psychic reader. She does psychic readings with Mother Courage, and she is like amazing. Like his clients, like out, you know, like breaking her door down, right? And and then we have in common, because I'm a paranormal investigator and have been it's been like an interest for me since I was in 8th grade. But I am really excited to go and work with her in June, and I will be seeing you in June there as well, Staxx, right?
That's what a lot of people don't know, that I'm going to Las Vegas and I'm going to be working for the production
I just blasted
team.
you out.
Hey, it is what it is. But I'm going to be working for the production team, and I'm going to be filming Chatting with Staxx from Las Vegas. So you guys need to stick around, and you'll be seeing the progression of the show and everything getting better as the time goes on.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
One thing I really, really want to talk about before we go, because we're jamming a lot into a little bit of time.
Yeah, so let's condense.
I want to see if you can talk a little bit about the time that you have to put the car in front of the kid when he was getting shot.
First, let me tell your viewers what a violence interrupter is, because a lot of people say that to me. What is a violence interrupter? So, violence interrupter is somebody with not only relationship but credibility on the street. And Liz and Bianca power couple, absolutely. Oh my God, you know.
Shout out to Liz, she's great.
Unstoppable. So anyway, so violence interrupter is somebody like me or my many colleagues that we have relationships and we have credibility and all that stuff, and we come from the life. So when we were able to kind of get like heads up or know of a beef going on, and I could say that 75% of all shootings and homicides in the city of Chicago anyway, initiate and escalate on social media with online beefs, and then go offline to real shootings and or a homicide. So what a violence interrupter does is mediate a conflict successfully. So if we can mediate a conflict by going and talking to an individual that's like so pissed off because he just found out some of the reasons are like not worth killing anybody, but it's hard when you're in that life to explain that. So that we have a lot of different techniques. We're all trained on this, right? And so a violence interrupter would go depending, if I don't have the credibility for that specific situation, I call a colleague or they call me or whatever. That's how we roll. But anyway, and in the beginning, they might be loading their gun. I'm like, Bianca, don't come here with that anti-violence stuff. I ain't trying to hear it. I'm like, okay, no.
Yeah. Like if they got guns and they're like ready to go do something, and you got to go.
No, but I don't mean, you can't preach to them. So here's what works for me really well. And I'm like, I just want to understand why. So I saw this video and my girl was, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I just want to understand. So you're going to go shoot and kill somebody because your baby mama was at the club and posted, and the guy posted a video to disrespect you. And yeah, whatever they say. And then I'll go, no, because I'm just trying. I mean, hey, do you, whatever. Once you cross that line, I'm sorry, you're the problem with the police, not mine anymore. But anyway, I just want to understand. So you're going to go kill somebody, blow their brains out because you saw and I repeat it. And then after by the 9th time, they kind of look at me and kind of laugh, and then I'm like, are you hearing this? Do you know how stupid that sounds? And then they're like, okay, all right, I'm not going to. And I'm like, all right, cool. Get rid of the strap and, whatever. And they're like, okay, it's not quite that easy. Sometimes it takes hours, but I'm briefly giving it to you. But anyway, and then they're like, okay, you can go now. And I'm like, oh no. We're hanging together all night. My baby mama's going to pick me up. I'm like, well, I'll be in the back seat. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, Bianca, go home. And I'm like, no, because if I leave you, somebody's going to whisper in your ear and get you all geeked up again. And you're going to go get that gun. So I'm trying to save your life. You're stuck with me all night long. Now, I can't say that they won't kill someone tomorrow, but I do what I can. And I'm going to try to save one kid at a time, one day at a time until I die. That's all I can do. But
I think you probably have saved quite a few.
I've lost a lot, and it's heartbreaking. I go to more funerals than I want to admit. But anyway, so what you're talking about, I was given a resolution by the city of Chicago for bravery, and in 2016. So I happen to be.
I think I have a picture of it. Is this?
The two on the standing next to me. It was the then Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Those are my grandchildren and my first son, Sean. And the two on the side is Alderman Keppelman and he retired former Alderman Moore that lived in my district. But it was a kind of a real proud day. However, so I was, it was Sunday morning. I would never have been on the west side. I live on the north side of Chicago on the lake. And this is me in Flint with the mayor of Flint. He bestowed an honor on me, and it was like this commemorative coin. And so I got a mic, he's got a mic, right? And so I said that right there is what I'm saying. So Mayor, I'm not getting the key to Flint. So I was like, so
like, where's I'm
going to honor this, what you've given me, this plaque, I'm going to honor that and cherish it. But when will I get the key to Flint? But anyway, so in Chicago on January 2016, and I read it in the book. But anyway, what you're talking about, I'm at a red light, and I'm on the west side. I'm on California and Harrison, straight up hood, killings, shootings constantly. So I'm not afraid. I'm never afraid. I've never been. I don't think I was born with the fear factor. But anyway, so I'm just in my car, and I love music, so I blast it all the time, right? So I'm just waiting for the red light so I can go get on the highway and go home, right? So anyway, so I don't really hear the shots at first, but I see people backing up and getting out, and running. So I hit my radio off and I look and it just happened this is like happened so many times, and people are like, why are you always somewhere where there's a shooting? And I'm like, because I'm really always in the hood trying to stop stuff, so you're going to see things. But anyway, so I'm in my car and there's a car in front of me. The shooters, they shot into a crowd of kids. Everyone ran. One kid was hit. He looked young. I did not know him. He hit the ground. They continued shooting because they wanted to kill him. So, oh, you're welcome, Liz. You're the best. Anyway, so they were trying to kill him. I know I lived life. So anyway, so I don't. This is not the smartest thing to do, and probably not the best thing. But I put my car in reverse, backed up, drove on the wrong side of the street, and put my car in between the shooters and the kid. So my car would get the bullets. You had that explanation of the insurance company was a real, I don't know. My car was parked and I don't know, drive-by shooting, I hope my insurance company's not listening, but anyway, so the shooters ran. They left the trap car, stolen, whatever, that there. Now my car's in the crime scene, right? I jump out the car, run to the kid. There's nobody there, just me and the kid. I have light colored jeans on. I kneel down. He's still awake, trying to get up in shock. And I'm like, no, look at me, stay still. Don't move. I'm screaming, call an ambulance. So I pick up my phone and dial 911. I need an ambulance, And the lady's like, who? I'm like, I can't talk. I'm trying to save his life. I just threw my phone down, So as I'm kneeling, my light colored jeans are soaking to my thighs in this kid's blood. So he's bleeding out, right? So I see where he was shot a few times, but I see where the most of the blood's coming from his groin. So I knew I had to save his life. So there's still nobody around, I mean, I think the police got on the scene, but prior to that, I told the kid, he stayed alert. And I was like, don't move. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt, baby. I'm sorry, but I have to do this. So I put my hands in his pants and I felt by his groin, huge hole. And where it took 3 of my fingers to shove in that hole, and I pressed with the other hand as hard as I could, like clutching, And at one point, I know a girl came. I was like, "That's my cousin." I was crying. Then I started crying, but I wouldn't let go. And then I found out later, because I didn't know this family. I met them in the course of my post about this. I posted my bloody hand on Instagram and saying, like, basically, this is I want people to see the after effect of violence. You know what I mean? And it went viral. So anyway, but I couldn't leave, right? So now when I guess the mother came and she was like, "Okay, honey, we got it from here," And I guess according to her, I turned into Lucifer and looked at her like, "I'm not moving till the ambulance gets here," Like she was like,
"Yeah, because if you let that wound go, he could bleed right out."
Yeah, I wouldn't let go. So even when the paramedics came, I don't know, in my mind, I thought like they were going to take over. We're like, I'm going to let go. They're going to go. That's not how they do it, So they had to like inch me away. I wouldn't let go. I'm like, no. And so anyway, but they got him and his life was saved. So I had to wait. And the cops, the blue and whites, said, well, did you see anything? The usual questions. And I'm like, no, I didn't see anything. I saw a kid down. I moved into action. There's a car you have. I watched CSI. I mean, like, there's the car. You do your job. I didn't see anything. I don't know who they were. I don't know anything, right? So I just saw a kid that I knew I didn't want to die. So anyway, what happened was, I asked the cop, I said, he goes, you got to wait till violent crimes detectives come. And I said, okay. So I said, can I sit in my car? And they were like, sure. But I'm the tapes around me. I'm in the scene.
Normally they would take it. Normally they would impound it, right?
Huh?
Normally they'll impound your car if you're involved with something like that.
Well, I wasn't involved in it, and they knew that. But the violent crimes guy came, so I take one of my cards and with my blood-stained fingerprint on, I give it to the cop. He asked, could he sit in my car? I said, sure. The detective, who happened to be Italian, and his name, I go, you're Italian? And he goes, oh yeah, you are too. And I'm like, oh yeah, my family's from Little, So anyway, but anyhow, so he said to me, what happened? And I told him, look, I had my music loud. I saw people running, turned it up, heard shots, knew I had to save this kid. I drove here and applied pressure, blah, blah. And then the detective said, that's really heroic. I would never have done that. And I have a bulletproof vest and a gun, you know what I mean? And I would never have done that. And he said that was very heroic. And I said, well, thank you, detective, but I don't look at myself like hero-ish, I just care, right? So anyway, so he put me in for an accommodation. And then that night, since he had my card, he called me and said, hey, Bianca, I just want to give you the update. The doctors said that had that white lady not have been on that corner and to slow that bleeding, that boy would have bled out and died right there and then. He was 15 years old. And so, and he was not really the target. They couldn't get his older brother, so they figured they'd get him, So anyway, so then because of that, I was able to meet the family. And until this day, all these years later from 2016, I check on them and, I'm family with them. Every Christmas
so awesome.
I bring their grandkids gifts and, I'm bonded with them, and the kid, his nickname was Wooda. And, I remember when I got to first talk to him in the hospital, it was like really an amazing feeling. But anyway, so I get this call from the city and they're like, the city of Chicago wants to give you a resolution for bravery. And I was like, no, what? No, I didn't do that for an award. I wasn't, they're like, no, we know. But so I refused at first. I wouldn't do it. So they had to make the next city council meeting. In the meantime, aldermen were calling me and going, Bianca. And plus at that time, I'm just going to say it. I wasn't a big fan of Rahm Emanuel. And I was like, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to be on the front page of the Chicago Tribune and Sun Times with Rahm and my award, So I was like, and then the aldermen were like, Bianca, if Bozo the clown was the mayor, that's who would have to hand you the award, So it's not from him. It's from the city you love. You're a Chicago girl. It's from your Chicago. Chicago is honoring you. So I finally agreed, and then that's how I went. And it was very emotional, and to hear the words of all the members, a lot of the council members I knew, even from when I was in prison, that stood up and said, I remember when you were in prison and we would come there and talk, and now look at you now and all this stuff. So I'm really grateful. I am very grateful that since 2015, I have been to 5 of the 7 continents. I've traveled around the world to some of the most dangerous cities in the world, and even in America. But you know what? I wear a lot of hats, so I do trainings on or help with program building to stop the false propaganda. I work in the Middle East a lot to stop the false propaganda that would lure somebody to join a terrorist group like ISIS or something like that. Yeah. Not that I'm going up against them, but anyway. So I do a lot of stuff.
They're all trash too.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. No, but I mean, but there's programs that you could maybe stop the new members from going.
Yeah.
So that's not my thing. But
how did you get involved with Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa?
So Vic Mensa's my nephew. And him and Chance grew up together. And so Vic Mensa's not really my nephew, but he's my nephew. He calls me his dope Auntie Bianca. And I've known him for so long, and we're like BFFs, And so he's just the coolest dude in the world, And so he's every bit my nephew, right? And King Musa is also my nephew. They all call it Chance the Rapper, Joey Perps, all these rappers. Bilo from Georgia. I just know people. I go to places, I meet people. People are like, I don't know, maybe people get attracted to my personality or find me intriguing, or I don't know. But I'm just genuinely myself.
It's your energy.
I'm just myself.
Good energy.
There's no hidden agenda here. There's no, I'm transparent, like me or don't like me. Hey, I'm doing my thing and whatever, So I know that last year, Chance the Rapper and Joey Perps and Vic Mensa, they did a concert at the Promontory in Hyde Park. And so, obviously, I was backstage anyway. So, and I had all these pins that I had made of their different albums and songs and stuff, like little pins, back in the day, rock people used to have I had Iggy Pop pins, Stones. Yeah. And they don't quite do that anymore. But I made a bunch of pins. So they didn't know I was going to do this. But I So I'm standing like in the back, and then I start. So now just they're out there, and so one of the guys, I'm kind of leaning on the drums because there's nobody at the drummer at the set at that song. I'm kind of like leaning by the drum seat, and so one of the guys was like, "Bianca, you're getting ready to do something, aren't you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then so just I was singing. I went on the stage and I just started throwing the pins, and the crowd went wild, right? And so all the other members were like, Bianca, that I swear to God, that was the whole highlight of my whole night, that you just like walked out there. So Vic was on the mic and he was like, okay, if y'all be watching my story on Instagram, you've seen her. That's my auntie Bianca, and she had these pins made and da 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 da. But it took so long, and at some point you could hear him going like trying to like where they're waiting to continue the concert, like to the music, kind of like just making some noises or something.
Yeah.
And it was like funny. But anyway, yeah, I've gone all over to other states with Vic and others, and Kevin Gates and Drake. I totally love them. They are just as real as they portray themselves to be. That's how they really are.
Yeah, they definitely seem like down to earth people.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys actually, I meet a lot of celebrities also because they seek me out, because they're like, they kind of want to give back to the community, but they want to be sure they're really giving back to the community. So the word on the street is Bianca's the real deal. She'll guide you in the right way to really help. So I'll come up with things like, hey, I'm working with high school kids at the YMCA that are suffering from trauma from a family member being killed or something like that. And yeah. I brought like Drika Gates came and spoke with them, Vic, so like they'll give back in that way, or different things like food drives. And so I'm always involved in all that stuff.
I did a toy drive last Christmas for the homeless shelter here in Bristol, Connecticut. And I work with Brian's Angels, Pat Stebbins, mm-hmm. and she has a homeless outreach center out here. And I do what I can. I volunteer on and off a few days a week.
Well, so you wear other hats as well, yeah. and I'm proud of you, and congratulations on your recovery. I believe in you, and I feel like that's wonderful that you're, with children and Christmas gifts. This past Christmas was my 10th annual Christmas gifts for homeless children.
Yeah, I want to do it every year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is my 10th year, and I service about this past Christmas. Maybe about 450 homeless children, whether they're in shelters or living in a tent city. And so what I do is like, I actually start in early November, and I go to these shelters, or I'm climbing under bridges, going under the viaducts to find kids, that have slipped through the system and are like living in a tent, And then, so I kind of like, if they're younger kids, I'm like, okay, so look, I'm like, I know a lot of people, and I'm really good friends with Santa Claus. And I'm like, there might be an older kid, they go, please stop, there's no Santa Claus. And I'll be like, 1 second, baby, come here, let me holler at you. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to convince these children with me that there really is a Santa, and I'm very good friends with him, or you won't be getting, what you're asking, because I'm going to ask you what you want too. Yeah, I don't care that you're 11, So then they'll be like, oh yeah, no. Yeah, she is. She's real cool. She goes to the North Pole all the time to the little kids. So I get a list, and I get their name and their age, and like, tell me 3 things that you would want from Santa. Because when I see him, I'll let him know. And if I raise enough money, and I do all these fundraisers, and there's wonderful people, and Rose Ellens, my best friend in Chicago, helps with that. Over the years, I at first did it all alone. I got a couple like elves that help me. We're all the elves, and so we, if we can, I'll tell the kids, you're going to at least get the 1 gift, but maybe you might get 3. And if we get enough money, sometimes these kids get 5 gifts, And my friend, I'm not domestic. I'm not the wrapping box girl, but my friend Rose is like, oh my God, she wraps a gift like as if you think it came from Neiman Marcus. Okay.
Yeah. My daughter wrapped the presents this year.
She has like a gift wrapping party. We dump all these like literally like 1,000 gifts at her house, and I don't attend, but she does her thing, and they all wrap them. And then we fill our cars, and we go shelter to shelter. And then she doesn't do the part. She's like, okay, bitch, you're on your own, climbing under bridges, going into tent cities, but have fun, So, and I do this every Christmas Eve. And I start in the morning, and we, go to the shelters. some domestic battery shelters, and also bring clothing for the mothers because they're literally rescued in the middle of the night. I do this for free. I don't get paid to do this,
Yeah.
And out of the money I raise, I don't even use any of that money to buy wrapping paper, ribbon, tags, gas, nothing, Every dime goes to children. So, like I said, so if I say, like this year it was over 400 homeless children that we were able to provide gifts from Santa Claus. Each of them got at least 3 to 5 gifts. Okay. And a lot of the gifts are really nice because we'll give the list to people who have money, right? And they're like, okay, I got these 5 kids, So, of course, there's that occasional kid that's like, I want a PlayStation, an iPhone 13 or
dirt bike or something.
Yeah, no. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I want that iPhone too. But so COVID's been really hard on Connor and he has no money. So you won't be getting the iPhone 13. But tell me something else. Do you like remote cars? So I kind of, fluff it over so I'm not mean to them, But I truly, Staxx, I'm grateful to be on your show. And I just want to, I know we're ending, now. And I truly, truly enjoy I love people. I love all walks of people. I love talking to random people. And everyone says I should have like a body cam on me because it's every day is like an adventure with Bianca, in a good way. And so I love what I do. I really do. When you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at, so.
It's just great. It's great to see someone that was in your situation and doing the great positive things that you do now. And I inspire to be that person. And I just
you already are. You just
well, I'm doing more and more every day.
No, stop. You got to put that out of your head. So on May 8th of this year, I will have 12 years of sobriety. Okay.
Congratulations.
So,
that's incredible.
But don't say like I'm trying to be. You are becoming. Okay. This is a long road. It's not easy. You're doing it. I have haters. We all get haters. You just don't give them any energy. They fade away into the darkness because if you really talk,
I don't have no haters. They all love me.
You might not. I do. I'm saying I got haters. I'm telling you. I'm telling you all your audience. Like legit, I'm the nicest person in the world. If you needed my shirt, I'd give it to you for free. If you had no food, I'll buy you food. No, you got no diapers, I'll buy you. I'm not even a rich person.
Same way.
My credit card,
same
right?
way.
But
there's some people that don't even deserve that.
Yeah, so. I have haters. It's crazy. Yeah. Like I got a screenshot from someone, and they're like, "So apparently you died," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Whatever, So some goofball saying, I'm really sad to hear that Bianca was killed, or overdosed from heroin or something. So, but I just don't give them any energy and they fade into the darkness. You know what I mean? So maybe in the future you will have, thank you, Stormy. Thank you so much. And yeah, one day at a time. And, I'm really, I'm humbled. And again, with the accolades, I know that they're a good honor, but that's not my motivation, to say people will come to my, not often, but like a family member, because I'm always working, I'm never home, but they'll say, I got a couple things up, right? But they'll say, where you got all these plaques? And I'm like, oh, they're in a box over there. And like, why don't you have them? I'm like, well, they were a good honor, but that's not like, I'm not going to surround myself like, no, it's about the work. It's about the work, because when you're in this arena and you really don't do the job, guess what happens? People die. A mother is crying and screaming over a casket or at the morgue. Whether her kid was down the wrong road or not, that's still her child and she's hurt. So when we don't do our job, people die. And I don't want anyone to die. I'm trying to help them change, because behavior can be learned. It can be unlearned. Yeah. Positive behavior, replaced, right? So I'm going to keep doing me. And, I'm just grateful to be here and I like your background. I believe that's Pilsen, right next to, because all the murals I'm seeing are Little Village area. Lots of violence, but it's a great neighborhood. I love it. I live in Pilsen and Little Village, and the projects I lived in were the village. They called it the Village Projects. on the other side of this community. And I lived there for over 20 years. So a lot of young people get killed. And, I mean, yeah, sometimes I think about that. And it's a traumatizing thing. And it's even sadder that we witness this so much that it becomes normal to us. Like I might be talking back in the day to some girl and going, oh my God, let me see her nails. Where'd you get your nails done? And then bah, 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 bah. Then we stop and look. Okay. I don't hear any more shooting. No. Okay. No.
Where'd you
Anyway,
get those
so
again?
no. Then we're like, okay, back to anyway. So where'd you get your nails done? So we're so immune. You know what I mean? Or you might be like, not that we care that somebody got shot, but it's just a normal process of our day. So I'm glad that is no longer the norm for me. Although when I'm working in the street over the years, I've had, I've been at where talking to young people in a drive-by shooting. I have had to jump in between two parked cars, to dodge bullets. And people are always like, you're not afraid? I'm like, no, I'm not afraid. I don't know. I'm really not, so I'm just going to.
They're only
this work is not for the faint of heart.
Right? Be afraid for what? Like,
well, this is not the work for the faint of heart. No. I can say that.
Well, I really want to thank you for coming on my show. You're welcome here anytime. I know you have plenty of stories to tell. And
oh my God, yeah, I know we went over 30 minutes, but sorry about that.
It's all good. I really enjoyed you coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I hope your viewers aren't like, could she please be quiet?
No, they definitely love your stories. I want to say happy birthday to my dad before we go. Happy birthday in heaven. Today's my dad's 62nd birthday, I think. 60s. But he passed away in 2008. Happy birthday to you, Pops.
Happy heavenly birthday. What is it? River Bill, right?
Yeah, River Bill.
Happy heavenly birthday, and may he continue to rest in peace. And know that he's looking down at you like my grandmother and my family members, knowing that we're finally okay, right?
Yeah.
We're finally okay.
Definitely. And I can't fill you in on nothing.
You're an inspiration to me.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I can't fill you in on nothing. I got no information for you, man. You guys have a great day. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. Till next time. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Peace out. Peace out.